we all have this longing. We all know that there's more out there, and it's not all going to come to fruition until Christ returns. Like most students, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I had this broad interest in the earth itself. I can kind of see traces of that if I look back. I could see a rock collection. I had a rocks and minerals collection. I would visit my grandparents every summer, and they'd take me to a shop that I could add to my collection. I would study. I had this little textbook that I would study the Earth's core, mantle, and crust, and all that kind of stuff. And so I could see, and I always just enjoyed being outside. And so I went to Cal Poly, and they were creating this Earth science major. And so I figured I would probably just start there. And I would actually had to major in soil science, and then I could transfer into earth science. And so I figured I'd probably do that, because who knows what soil science is as an 18-year-old from Southern California. So, but I met some of the faculty, and I thought, maybe I'll just start at the surface, start in the Earth's surface. And I took right away, my first semester, I took Intro to Soil Science, and I realized I didn't need to switch. I had found something that I loved. I was curious, had a great professor, and I wanted more. And so I loved Cal Poly. They have this learn by doing motto, and so a lot of lab and a lot of field work, so getting to be outside. And I realized as I'd gone in a couple of years that it wasn't going to be enough. I wanted to keep learning about soils, so I started to make sure I was on track to go to graduate school and to do a master's degree. And then I think by the time I was a senior, I knew I wanted to keep going further and get a PhD. And so in soils, you typically get a master's first. So I looked all over the country. I kind of constrained myself to the West as an undergrad, and so I wasn't going to do that this time. I was going to not have any geographic constraints. So I looked all over the country, applied to 7 schools, and got to visit 5 or 6 of them, and really found a great professor at Penn State, and who was doing a really neat project where it would take me to Chile for 8 months. And so I had never really traveled internationally besides Canada and Mexico. So that was also pretty neat that science could take me internationally. And so I did that. I spent 8 months in Chile working at a lab there, and speaking Spanish as my primary language there. And I was actually able to teach a soil chemistry lab in Spanish. And so after I had already committed to Penn State, I got this email from the professor at Stanford that I was interested in working with, and he said, by the way, congratulations, you're I want you in my group. I basically just don't have room or funding right now, but he encouraged me to go get the master's degree at Penn State. He knew my advisor there and thought that was great. And he said, I want you to come up and to discuss potential future interactions, as he put it. And so I was still at Cal Poly at the time, and so I drove up one weekend and just had an incredible time there. I felt like the research that I could do there could have this global impact. So it wasn't just like science for science sake, but it had this human health component to it, which was very attractive to me. And so sitting there as an undergrad, as senior, I basically knew where I was going for my master's degree, and I knew where I was going for my PhD. So I basically had the next 9 or so years mapped out for me, which is odd, and I think I'm not sure why God had that plan, why, but he allowed me to see into the future, and it actually happened, right? So I was, for a long time, I knew the path that I was going to take, and it happened that way. And so after I finished at Stanford, I then went to the University of Delaware and did a postdoc, did research there. By that time, I knew I wanted to be a professor. At that point, then I have, now my future's uncertain, right? Because I didn't get to see beyond that. So I didn't really get to see the postdoc phase or what went beyond that. And so, it was certainly a phase of life. By this time, I had a wife and a few kids, right? And so there's more pressure, responsibility, stress, and uncertainty. And I was trying to trust God through the whole process, and trying to systematically just look at various faculty jobs throughout the country. And I saw this one pop up from Multnomah University, and they're looking at it for an environmental scientist, and they are a Christian university. And I think I did a double take. I was like, wow, this is something. This is not too much. This doesn't happen every day, right? This doesn't happen. A small Christian school where I could teach, have a good, small student to faculty ratio, be able to mentor students, and be able to teach from my discipline, from my worldview, in academia in 2017, right? So that was powerful. How did I get this vision for what I wanted to do, and how did it actually pan out that way? I look back, and I don't think there was anything like special about me in that sense. Like, I look back. I think it's easy to look back in life and see God's providence. It's hard to see it as we're proceeding. In my journey, like how I reflect on it, and that I was made for more. I think about just our finitude. I think about how little time we have, but I think that we just need to proceed with what's in front of us, and to trust God, and to pray, and to commit in prayer to what He has called us to do. I found that the faithful thing to do is just to proceed and do the next thing, and invite God through prayer throughout the process, and let Him guide you.